Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. I hope you're doing okay. It's nice to see you all. Just looking through your comments. Hi Bahadir. Hi Karen. Um, yeah, it's nice to see so many familiar names and some new names too. We're going to be sketching today, guys. So hopefully you can hear me okay. We're trying this in a new room. We're trying this in a room nearer to where my daughter sleeps. So we'll see if she wakes up. Um, it's kind of slightly on edge about that, but otherwise feeling real good and excited to sketch with you guys. So I think it's cool to just get drawing ASAP and not mess around too much. So you guys can see some blocks on the right hand side of the screen. You can see two at the top that I've taken pictures of at different angles. And then you can see a little set of blocks at the bottom. And I felt like that would be a great warm up for us. Just some simple boxes, just some simple blocks. So why don't we just start sketching those, and then I'm gonna and this is just a warm up, so you don't have to do anything fancy with these. And then I'm gonna talk about this whole idea sketching that we're gonna talk about today. I hope you guys have been all right. I've had a really nice day today with my daughter. It's not always easy dealing with a 2-year-old, but it has been really, really fun. So ever since, all of this lockdown stuff, me and my wife have been, we haven't had any childcare. So, we're kind of doing all the childcare and working, which has actually been great. It's been great fun to just spend that much time with our daughter. But yeah, not always easy. People call it the terrible twos, but something I think they don't talk about that much is also how interesting it is when your kid is 2 years old and they're just, she's absolutely fascinating. She's just picking things up, the way that she learns things, the way she kind of experiments with things. It's kind of inspiring, how hard she works to just learn all these things and learn all these things that, I've taken for granted for so long. So anyway, sorry, that's a total tangent that I didn't expect to be talking to you guys about. We're talking about sketching today. So one of the reasons that I feel like sketching is so important is partly, you guys may have seen a video that we just put up on our channel, which is about observational skills versus skills with construction, skills with perspective. And in that video, I talked a little bit about how at the end of the day, you'll benefit from either set of skills, but really what we want to do is get just intuitively good at those things, whether it's observational skills or skills with, perspective and being able to just think about things in 3 dimensions. We want to get intuitively good with those things. And one of the only ways to really do that is with mileage, is just with doing more drawing. And, we're primarily interested in figures on this channel, but you can really benefit in your figure drawing by cross-training with other stuff, drawing other stuff, even these simple blocks. And I'm going to talk about these blocks in a second, actually. But we're just getting more training into our eyes by sketching these kinds of things, sketching anything and everything around you. And I think doing it with a pen is a really, really good idea. Just because it takes away the back button. It takes away that ability to remove a line, and so you're always moving forward. You put down a line, you can't take it away again. You just got to move on to the next one. Drawing goes wrong, doesn't matter. You leave it there, you get on to the next one. So I'm just going to check in to the comments real quick. Lefties unite, that's right. Draw with my left hand. At last I'm able to arrive on a live stream. Yeah, we're trying a different time. Bit late starting, no problem, Sue. So we've got these blocks to just warm up with. I mean, to be honest, there's zero pressure on this whole session. It's just sketching. I feel like there should never be any pressure on a sketch session. Sun turned 3 yesterday. It's great to see their minds turn when something clicks. It's amazing. Plus, with so many questions they have, it makes you think more deeply on things as well. Yes, I totally agree, First Look. It really, really does. Although sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's not easy. But yeah, it's incredible. You know, so I always got to remind myself, like, this is the most important thing that I'll ever do. And this moment as well, when she's this young, when she needs me the most, this is the most important thing I'll ever do. So when it's, you know, when it's tough, just got to try and think about that. It's easier said than done. All right, cool. So you guys are sketching those blocks, hopefully. Maybe you finished. The only thing I wanted to say about it is a block. Yeah, I'm going to draw on the iPad on the right-hand side, so you'll see lines. Hopefully you can see my red swirly line there. The only thing I wanted to say on this is we could draw this by finding vanishing points or something. But what you really just want to keep in mind with a block is the lines as they go away from you should be converging, and more important than that, not getting further apart. So it's really easy to like see this side of the block here. You can see my red line. I don't know how to, maybe green would show up more clearly. Is that, I'll kind of zoom in on it and hope you, here. This one and this one, they're going away from you. They're going to be coming together a little bit. And I know that's really basic, but you just need to think about, are those two lines going away from me? And if they are, I got to make sure that I don't draw them going as if they're diverging. They got to be converging as they go away from me. And the reason that I say that is it's so easy to just draw a box and you just, you know, like it kind of looks okay, but you've just accidentally there. Hopefully you can see there on that box that I've just drawn, that line going away from me and that one going away from me, they're diverging. So that's why it looks a little bit wonky. So you just got to find like, what's the point nearest to me? And then the lines as they go away from me, they just got to be not going away from each other. And you know, if you get the amount of convergence right, that's cool, that's great. But the main thing is just to not get it going the wrong way, you know? At least that's the first sort of thing to keep in mind. Okay, so should we move on? Let's move on to drawing something else. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about sketching. So let's draw this. Now, you may think, why has he chosen these random household objects? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One reason is, so we're just going to draw these guys. We're just literally drawing them, just observing them and drawing them. And we can talk about a little bit of, I don't know, technical stuff maybe, but I want to just talk first about sketching in general. So one reason that I'm just doing household objects is this live stream isn't exactly how I would suggest you guys do your sketching. And what I mean by that is, firstly, I'm sketching with lots of people watching, and I feel like you can just sketch with no pressure. You know, I've definitely, you know, in the back of my mind right now, I'm definitely thinking, oh, there's all these people watching, you know. And that's why, I don't know if some of you may have seen in my email, I suggested, this is based on a recommendation from illustrator Jared Cullum, is you have a sketchbook at least, which you're not going to show to anyone. And you're sketching it in pen, and you're not going to show anyone that sketchbook. And the reason for that is when you can really just draw with abandon then, because you know no one's ever going to judge you. No one's ever gonna, well, actually, even if the drawings go great, no one's ever gonna see it. So you're not striving to impress anyone. You're not striving to avoid criticism. You're just drawing, right? And then you add in the pen, and that gives you that extra layer of commitment to the lines, and like what will be will be. You can see I've done this lamp completely wonky. If you guys weren't here, I absolutely wouldn't care that I'd done it wonky, but you guys are here, so I'm a little bit thinking about that, but I try and put that out of my mind because we're just sketching. And so that's why I think that's such a good recommendation, that you just have this private sketchbook. You can make all the mistakes in the world, you can explore, you can try different things, and it just really doesn't matter if it all goes wrong. And the reason that I'm doing household objects is because normally this is the kind of thing, I think it's just great to draw stuff from life, and this kind of sketch session should be something that you can just jump into whenever and super easily. So all you need is a pen and a sketchbook, and then just some random stuff around you, whatever that stuff may be. So in this case, it's a little coin box that my daughter plays with, a little funny lamp thing, and the thing that she drinks water from, the Tommy Tippy. And it doesn't matter if you draw it all wrong, you can just do it again. I just use one of these micron pens. They're fine, they're nice, but you don't have to use a special pen. I mean, one of the cool things about them is that you can like add watercolor on the top, but we're not doing any of that, so you don't even need anything as fancy as that pen. And then this, I just wanted to show you guys, as a brush pen. You can use that too if you like, it's quite cool. I'm trying to learn how to use it, so I'm just going to add an outline here with it. And this kind of mileage, when you just add drawing from life with a pen, I feel like it's going to help you with your intuitive sense of perspective, with your mark making skills. And because it's no pressure, it's just exploration, and it's just pure practice with nothing else on it. I really, really, really like it. So I'm just going to check in on the comments in a second. And by the way, guys, during this, I'm showing some stuff on the screen for you to draw, but normally I'd suggest that you draw from life. You draw stuff around you, actual objects, rather than photos. And right now, if you would prefer to just draw something around you while the rest of us draw this stuff, that's totally cool. Just getting into this habit. This is a habit where at the end of the day, you just got your sketchbook like on the coffee table or whatever. You got your pen right there. You just crack it open and relax. Just relax. There's no pressure on this sketch session. Okay. Yes, Sarah, that is a Pentel pocket brush. I just got it. I'm just figuring out how to use it. So Rachel says, why is it important to commit to a line? Well, sometimes I think it's good to, draw where you can fix it and keep working on a drawing until you can get it right. But one thing about that is you become quite tentative. Whereas when it's like, this mark I'm going to make is the final mark, and I just got to go with it. At some point, I just have to take a leap of faith. I have to leap into the unknown, and I get one chance. And you can see here I've got loads of lines wrong. But every line I made, I had to take that leap of faith. Whereas when it's like a pencil and you've got a rubber, you're never really taking that leap of faith because you've always got the rubber ready to fix it. And also you're more worried about getting it right. I want to take that line back. I did this line wrong. I want to take that line back. So like here, this curve here, I didn't do that right. It shouldn't be curving like that, especially if the top is flat across the top. You know, you can see that on the actual reference, it's straight across. So that means I'm looking right at that. There's no curve. That's wrong. I desperately want to fix that. I want to get rid of it, but it's there now, and I got to be cool with it. It's really good for your mindset. It's good for your mark making. Why is it? Let's move. Are you guys okay with this? If we move on to the next thing, which is, so I'm trying to keep, my wife earlier was like, man, you're not taking very good photos of stuff. It's true. And one reason for that is I don't know how to take good photos. And the other reason is it doesn't have to be a special scene. It really doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is the scene every night with me and my wife on the couch. Once we curl up with Maggie, we get our tea there, and the sketchbook is there. And I've drawn these mugs, and like there's a biscuit there. That's the kind of stuff I'm drawing, because that's just what's there. Sorry, so what was the question? Why is it better to draw from life than photos? Well, there's a lot of reasons, I think. So one is that a photo, I mean, I love drawing from photos, so I'm never gonna be sort of elitist about that and say you should only draw from life. I don't think that's true at all. But there is a benefit to drawing from life, and for this kind of sketching where you're just sketching any old object, it's not like you're drawing a life model and you don't have access to one, so you have to use a photo. You're just drawing anything, then you can draw from life, and that is better if you can, because it's 3D right there in front of you. A photo is already crushed everything down into 2 dimensions, and you lose a lot there. A camera actually does, it doesn't just recreate every photon in the image. It processes it and crunches it up into, you know, like the truth is, off that pink mug, there's like so much light of different colors bouncing off that into your eyes in reality, in real life, right? There's light bouncing off the walls, there's light bouncing off the mug, there's bits of blue light and all different kinds of light bouncing off that into your eyes. But the camera has to just turn that into one kind of light. It just kind of has to average it out. I mean, I'm not an expert on that technology, but it just has to make decisions. It also can't sort of process, it has to sort of crunch down the values as well. And so the type of light that it's sending out to your eyes is not the same as the kind of light that is coming off real things in real life to your eyes. And that sounds like, when I first heard that, so I was like, well, I don't know, that just sounds a bit like being a bit picky, you know, like you're being a bit picky about things. It basically looks the same, doesn't it? But as you kind of work on these things more and more, you realize it's not the same at all. You're definitely not getting the same kind of light, same kind of colors, and you're not getting the third dimension. You know, when you're drawing from life, you have a 3D vision, right? You've got 2 eyes and you're seeing things in 3D. So I think it's great to draw from photos, but if you can, it's really great to draw from life. And since this kind of sketching, you can draw from life definitely, because it's just anything around you, might as well draw from life. Okay. How do you stop yourself doubling up in your lines, says Sue. I don't really stop myself. If you want to fix a line, it's okay. The drawings don't have to look good. It's just, we're just filling this page with nonsense and practicing. So if you do 2 lines and it's the second line that you liked, you learn something there. That's it. No one else is going to see it. It's purely for learning. Just looking through the comments, guys. David says, are you constructing and pre-sketching in your head right now? It doesn't look like you are sketching to me. I'm not sure what you mean there, David. I'm not constructing as in thinking cylinders and stuff. I'm mainly just drawing from an observation right now. You could construct things and do volumetric drawing, and like you could draw this mug and think about it as a cylinder and then kind of build it up from there. But right now I'm just looking and drawing, trying to connect my eye to my arm, you know. But the objects that we're drawing I've kind of chosen because they are going to help us get that intuitive sense of things. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit. So I've chosen a lot of objects, like man-made objects like this, end up being either like quite cube-like, like the money box, or more cylindrical, like the T and this Tommy Tippy thing. And so you just get in a sense of like finding planes and corners or finding ellipses. So it just kind of helps with your intuitive sense of perspective. And then you look at it and you think, oh, that's a bit wonky. And then you realize why, and it all just helps build things up. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, guys, which is this. Or maybe, do you know what? We've done a few that look kind of like that. So why don't we do these trains, and then we're going to do something, not figures, but something a lot closer to a figure. So maybe I'll do these up here. Having a kid around, you get some really cool objects to draw. You got like blocks, which are great, and then loads of cool little toys. So we're just trying to draw this thing. Unless, David, you have a sort of definition of sketching that I didn't know about, and I would love to hear that. Okay. Rocky says, do you start a sketch from a particular point? I usually try to get a horizontal and vertical. Yeah, you can do that. Honestly, you do whatever you want. Like, you should, in my opinion, this is just my current take on how to do this, which is like, do whatever you want and try things and see if they work. And this is your free time. This is your sandbox to just play in and just try stuff. And it really doesn't matter if it works or it doesn't. But the one thing that I think you shouldn't do is just try to like make it all pretty, because then you're just doing your best stuff, right? Stuff you're in your comfort zone. Whereas here you were just trying stuff out. So like drawing with pen, that's not my comfort zone. And drawing anything other than like people and figures is also not really my comfort zone. And so we're just trying to like get that mileage, practice our intuitive skills with different kinds of objects, with cube-like objects and cylindrical objects and all kinds of stuff like that. And we're trying to practice our mindset, like trying to be commit to lines and let things go. You know, do a drawing and just let it go when it goes wrong, and just keep pressing forward and just enjoying it. You know, I feel like it's just so fun. Drawing's so fun. And sometimes when you got that pressure on it, the pressure can overtake the fun. But in your sketchbook, there's no pressure, so it can be just fun. And honestly, with this and other stuff and like figure practice recently, I don't think I've ever had so much fun with drawing and painting. I'm just absolutely in love with doing it more than ever. And like if you're somewhere where you're struggling with it, I really do think that it gets easier over time, and the sort of fun to difficult ratio improves every single year that you keep going, as long as you practice, as long as you keep going. Okay, Mary says, I have my volume at 100% and it's a bit hard to hear you. I'm just going to check with my wife. She feels like it's not too bad. I might be talking a bit quietly because, like I mentioned at the start, we're doing this in a room right next to my daughter's and I'm terrified of waking her up from her sleep. But I'll try and talk a bit closer to the mic, Mary, so hopefully that will help you out. Okay, I'm going to check in with the comments once I finish this one. I might do a little outline around this train with my brush pen just because I want to get that mileage in with this brush pen. Because I think, you know, the great thing about brush pens is I love the fine liner pen, like the one I'm just using, because you can't mess around. You get basically one line thickness. I mean, you get a little bit of variation, but you can't be too worried about varying your lines and making fancy flourishes. So you're just restricting yourself. Anytime you can restrict yourself, it's good. But at the same time, I want to get good with a brush pen too. Okay. Just rushing this a little bit, because I want to get to your comments. And by the way, you might think this has nothing to do with figure drawing. I really think it's going to benefit all kinds of drawing. And also, if you don't want to just draw from life, one thing I was doing was drawing on one side of the page, drawing from life, and the other side of the page, drawing from imagination. And that was really fun.
Someone's asked about, can you talk about what you look at? So you're looking at the outlines, you're looking at the shadows.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the actual drawing process. So, not really concerned about light and shadow right now. You notice I added some sketch hatching, maybe the edges of the shadow shapes, just like we talk about all the time on the channel. But mostly what I've been doing is using the observational skills that we always talk about on the channel. Finding an abstract shape, right? So it's like a sort of combination of thinking a little bit about principles of perspective is somewhere in the back of my mind, but mostly trying to observe. So when I'm like trying to draw the side of this wheel, so I'm drawing on the iPad now on the right, you see on the wheel at the front, I'm going to draw a green shape here. Right? I know it's a wheel, I know it's circular, but from this angle, you know, I'm looking at it from an angle, and then I'm thinking in terms of an abstract shape. It's a very thin shape. And all that figure drawing has really helped me to just see the simple abstract shape there. And it's kind of the same with everything. Like, you see, I got the shape of this train behind that train. I just tried to think about this shape created there, you know, and I tried to look for where does it come in here, where does it come in here, and what's the abstract shape created around here, you know. So I wasn't in this case, and this isn't, you could do this a different way where you could construct all of this. Like you could take that green train behind there and do the whole form of it. I think it's like a sort of cylindrical shape on top of a box, that one. And you could build up a cylinder and then build up a box and then do another box for the train in front and all of that. But for me, what I'm doing right now is more observational stuff, just thinking, what's that shape created there? Look at that far wheel. I know it's a wheel, I know it's a circle and all that, but from this angle, I'm just seeing a little sliver. So that's it. That's what I draw. I'm just trying to draw what I'm seeing, but I'm really simplifying it. I guess it's like a crossover, right? So I'm not worrying about every tiny detail and drawing everything. I'm just trying to see the form of it. So I guess there's a little bit of sort of construction style thinking there. Like I know that's a cylinder and that's a box. But then how am I going to draw that cylinder and box? I'm just going to observe it. I'm going to look at that shape. What's that shape created there? I know it's the side of a train, but from where I'm looking, it's a diamond shape. And that's it. So it's, kind of, these are like sort of thinking about this. It's a cylinder. So I know it's a cylinder, but I can also see it as just a shape like this and a shape like that on it. And it's just something that as you practice drawing more and more, you're going to get better and better at that. And that's why I think practicing your little bit of perspective sometimes, like we did in the previous live stream, practicing your boxes, practicing some cylinders, that's about as far as you need to go with that. You get this sense of things in a 3D space. You can think about things as in that way, but you don't need to go much further than that. And from there, it's mostly observational skills for this type of sketching. It's mostly just observational stuff. Does that make sense? Misaki says, is it better to start off with major shapes then slowly build the smaller shapes? Yeah, generally it is. Generally it's better to go big to small and simple to complicated. I mean, with a pen it's a little bit different. If we were using a pencil, you might do it a bit differently, right? You might think about what's the bigger shape that these trains are making, and then start to sort of break it down into really big simple shapes and then keep building up layers. But with a pen it's a slightly different style, because you're just going straight to it, committing straight to the final line. So I would suggest you could practice both. The way you talk is so soothing. Well, thank you very much. I think David means you're drawing with definite lines, putting lines straight on the paper versus sketching lightly and then creating solid line. Okay, thank you, Veronica. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm definitely just going for it because it's a pen and you can't really sketch lightly that much and then put solid lines. This is just one approach to it, though. If you want to do that too, that's totally fine. But there's just something about this where you just go in for it, committing, that I like. Are you doing figure drawing with brush pen? Not yet, Roger. Breno says, I tend to find myself trying to spot relative points that help me anchor and fix the relative proportion of parts. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. Trying to look for the lines that connect one thing to another. Yeah, just looking at like, what's the angle of the line? What's the shape? It's just, I know it's a little bit vague, but it's kind of what I was trying to say in that video, which is you don't have to kind of commit to this specific, just in case anyone, I'm just going to like cross that out because that was an example of what not to do there. So you don't have to just go, okay, this construction thing is the right way to draw, so I have to draw everything that way. Or observational drawing, where you do like sight size or anything like that, that's the correct way to draw, so I have to draw everything like that. I think you can get a little bit of skills from both. You practice the basics of both, and then you just draw from life tons. And then you get good enough at drawing, and then you can start to learn things like composition or design and things that are really going to kind of move people and have impact on them. That's my take on it, It's like not really committed entirely to one approach or the other. But you guys do whichever sort of technical stuff. They're tools. So the tool that helps you get to the outcome that you need, But I really do think there's a lot to learn from all that perspective stuff and construction and boxes. Even if you don't really like it, it's worth putting a little bit of time into that. And I think there's a lot to learn about just the observational, just trying to draw what you see, trying to make it into abstract shapes, trying to see more clearly, Rachel says, is your cross-hatching mostly intuitive, or are you trying to capture the direction of the light? I mean, this cross-hatching is not great, right? It's just random, really. Just parallel cross-hatching. I'm going to move on to the next one, guys. I mean, this is what we've all been waiting for. This is where it gets more fun with sketching. Okay, I hope I got space here. So this is my number one subject to draw. My dog, Maggie. And normally she's not still, but in the evenings she is fast asleep. So you can just draw her. Although she does move around a lot. So you know what? Drawing animals is a whole thing. You could learn anatomy. You could study the skull of dogs and whatever. And so I'm not suggesting to you guys that you have to do a good drawing of Maggie here. What I'm trying to do here is not think about all that stuff. I'll show you guys actually on the iPad what I'm going to look for. I'm just trying to find some shapes. So, and you know, I'm not suggesting this as like the way to do it. I'm just saying what I'm doing. I'm just trying to find some shapes. And so there's again, it's a combination of observation and just thinking a little bit structurally. So when I'm drawing, like if you look, I'm going to have her head here. So let's say I'm thinking about how her body goes back. It's all foreshortened. I'm going to think about this section of her body. Oops, that went wrong. That section of her body. And then this like sort of main chunk of her tummy and everything. And then her hind legs. So I'll break it down a little bit. So I don't really understand that much about animal anatomy other than just for figures. But I'm just going to break it down into some simple areas when I start drawing her. And then, you know, obviously there's like the shape. There's like a sort of half moon on her ears. And then a banana shape there. And I'm going to think about her brow a little bit. And obviously her eye. And then there's going to be like a sort of side on her face. And so it's like, I'm going to find a side plane on her face, which is sort of thinking a little bit sort of structurally. But when I draw it, I'm just looking at it as an abstract shape and trying to draw this abstract shape. I'm not trying to sort of understand everything about what I'm seeing. So breaking it down a little bit with a little bit of understanding, but then drawing the broken down version just by observing it. And that's what I seem to sort of, that sort of halfway point. You know, there's this book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which is all about these simple observational things where you learn to draw what you see. And then there's other stuff where it's all about construction with boxes and cylinders and everything. And then you can study anatomy and learn to build things up. That's what that last video was all about. I just feel like you combine them with a tiny bit of structural insight to break things up, and then observational skills to draw what you're seeing about those things. And I think figure drawing really encourages that. I think a lot of people end up doing something like that in figure drawing. And I really like the way that comes out, you know. Okay. So draw some of these pillows and then I'll check in on the comments. Okay. All right. I love drawing animals. Yeah. I really want to learn more about it. I really, really like drawing Maggie. So, and I haven't drawn many animals other than her. I do have a picture of one of my mum's cats, and I haven't really drawn cats much. So I think we could have a go at that. And I'm having to draw a lot more different stuff because when I'm hanging out with my daughter and she wants me to draw something else, and then I'm like, oh, It's not a figure. I don't really know how to draw it, so it's quite kind of nice to learn to draw other stuff. I'm late today, but happy to be here. Well, I'm happy you're here too, Margaret. What a beautiful dog. I know, Katrina. She is very beautiful. Very naughty. Is there an easier way to compare the tones of lights and shadows? Do you know what, Sam Yukta? Right now, we're not actually worrying too much about the tones of light and shadows, but the easiest way to split what you're seeing up, like your profile picture is like a two-tone picture. Everything's either black or white. You just squint your eyes and simplify the values, the light and dark you're seeing. Get rid of all the nonsense, all the little contrasts. John says pen requires a lot more internalized planning in general, but it's very rewarding. That is true. That is true. You know, with the pencil, you can build things up a bit more slowly, bit by bit. Pen is less forgiving. But on the other hand, I feel like, guys, don't worry if your drawings aren't looking good, because that's really not the concern here. We're not going for beauty. We're doing that whole on Love Life drawing. We always talk about that. It's my pen's running out. It's learning over beauty. Just don't worry about beauty. Assess every practice session based on whether you learned anything, or whether your hands learned anything, whether your eyes learned anything at all. The more mistakes you made, you probably learned something, as long as you saw them as mistakes, or not as mistakes, but as things that could be improved. So we're just going to go with this all the time. So guys, I want to ask you, if you're drawing with pen, how does it feel? It's probably, anytime if it's new to you, it probably feels a bit awkward. And so, you can't help if the drawing, I'm saying don't worry if the drawings don't look good, but sometimes you just can't help but feel frustrated or to kind of judge yourself for not getting it perfect. But the idea behind this one is no pressure, no judgment, just mileage, just commitment, and just observe, draw, and move on. So how is that feeling? Does that feel like something enjoyable, or is it feeling a bit difficult and frustrating? I'd love to know. Margaret says, I've tried dog drawings and their noses are quite fascinating. Yeah, and they really help you explain the form. So one thing that I should talk about is this is such a interesting and quite tricky thing to get across. Wait, I just see the responses to this question and I'll get back to what I was going to say. So Mishka says, it feels weird, but I'm sure it will improve my line quality. Yeah, it's great. I love the different look it gives you. Yeah. Isn't it Quentin Blake who does those loads of pen drawings? I love them. They're just real stylized, real flamboyant, really fun. Rachel says, I like pen so much more than pencil because it helps me not to overthink. Yes. It's hard to draw animals. It is hard to draw animals, I agree. I've drawn Maggie a lot, so I'm used to it. Maria says she's beautiful, but not in my drawing. Yeah, don't worry about it. Remember, learning over beauty. Roger says, the hardest part is resisting the urge to redo lines. Yes, I 100% agree, Roger. So different, right? Otherwise, I used to find myself in figure drawings early on just rubbing out, that line's not right, that line's not right. And you can see how that mindset isn't perfect, right? It feels very permanent, says Jenna, but it's helpful because I can't try to fix everything I'm doing wrong. Yeah, and if you're not used to this, just imagine if you do this every single day for 30 minutes just drawing stuff around you, how you're going to draw in the beginning of your sketchbook, it's going to be not awesome, because any time you try something new, it's not awesome. I'm still figuring it out, as you can see. By the end of it, your first take, your first line, is going to have this confidence, right? Because you've just had to commit and move on so many times throughout that sketchbook. Gerald says, I'm surprised, works far better than expected. Yeah. Nick says, really enjoying the results. Joseph says, I missed the eraser. Yeah. Don't get a white Tipex or something and try and get rid of them. That's not the point. There's a sense of freedom to drawing with a pen, says Iola. I agree. Food says, when I draw with a pen, it feels more solid, like a commitment. Yes. Yeah, it kind of pushes you not to be insecure with your lines. Yeah. Okay. Pen is a good experience, says Peter. Helps me get away from tentativeness. Yes. Yeah. 100% agree, Peter. You don't have to just do this, but you can do it, combine it with other stuff. Outlining with the brush pen is a different experience. It gives more shape to the sketch. Yeah, I agree. It kind of just gives a sort of silhouette, a clear otherwise the sketch page just kind of feels all random and crazy, but now it's like, this is one thing, and it's got a kind of graphic feel to it. Okay. Interestingly, George says it's better to use pen for drawings with watercolors because you put down less marks. Yeah, less marks for a watercolor initial drawing's good. And I think there's a YouTuber called Peter Sheila or something. I don't know if I've misremembered that, but he does really nice pen and watercolor washes. Guys, I'm just going to move on to the next one. I've got another Maggie one. Why don't we try the cats? And then I got some other random stuff for us to draw. Those are my mum's cats there. And they're very sweet with each other, as you can see. So we've got the dog lovers are happy, and now hopefully the cat lovers will be happy. So let's draw them over here maybe. So I've not really drawn cats much before, but again, we're just thinking, do you know what? There was something I wanted to say. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to talk about before is one of the benefits of, because, I was real unsure about going into a lot of the construction stuff. My mum doesn't like it that much. She likes to go with all gesture, abstract shapes, finding cool shapes, observation. She feels it's more direct, more natural, sort of less robotic. Just for herself, right? That's sort of how she's felt about it. But one of the great things, there's a lot of great things about it. And one of the great things, I think, is when you get the thing about a box, say, is a box is three-dimensional. We want to create a sort of 3D feel to things sometimes. And a box is 3 dimensions in its simplest form, right? It's literally 3 dimensions, When you see something as a box, even if you don't draw the box or really emphasize, like let's say you're drawing a figure and you're drawing the torso, you can bring out the part. You don't draw it like a box, but you can kind of say like that's the side of the chest, and then maybe there's a little bit of rib cage here, and then there's the pelvis here. And what you're doing subconsciously to the viewer is you're just clarifying, like, there's the side plane and there's the front plane. And it just like a box feels 3D, it's an easy way to give the viewer a sense of 3D, because you're just saying 1, 2, 3 dimensions. When you give even a subconscious in your own mind, you have a sense of things in that way, you can clarify to the viewer, like, those same kinds of planes. Does that make any sense? I do have videos planned which are going to explain that properly. But all I mean is that you can kind of find ways to explain to the viewer in a very simple and straightforward way, this thing is 3D. This is going back in space. This is how it is in space. And you don't have to draw that way. You don't have to draw with boxes and stuff. I'm going off the page here. Definitely shouldn't try and squash the cat just to fit it on the page. But having done that practice somewhere in your past, that's one of the reasons why it's going to be useful. I think I squashed that cat to fit it on the page. That's a classic error. Anyway, don't worry if what I said makes no sense, because we got videos coming out about all that stuff. I guess my basic point is that we aren't, me and my mum, especially my mum, we're definitely not going to push people to draw with boxes and cylinders and stuff just because that's what you're supposed to do. But really limit it down to the ways where we feel like it could really benefit you guys and help with, I'm just going to try and fix this face here, and really help. Like, our ultimate goal is not some kind of technical correctness or perspective correctness. Our ultimate goal is figures that are expressive and interesting and beautiful, or whatever you're trying to achieve, you can achieve. And if that stuff is going to be one tool in that toolbox, then we're gonna use it as a tool, and then but only the bits that provide the most value, while keeping our eye on the ultimate prize, the ultimate goal, which is just expressing ourselves, I hope that doesn't sound like total nonsense. Okay. So the cat on the right is Teeny. My mum didn't name these cats, but the one on the left is Cosmo, and the one at the back is called Gimlet. I think they're named after cocktails, maybe. And I have squashed up Cosmo because of the page, the end of the page. It's a really common thing to do. Just let it go off the page. If you're reaching the end of the page, don't squash things to fit it on. Just let it go off. Okay. And then so Lucy says, the cat on the right is saying to the other one, boxes aren't the only way, meow. Yeah, very gently, just very gently saying, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with just like observing and going with pure gesture and finding abstract shapes. How often are you going to do these live streams, says Dan? Well, my intention originally was every week. We had a couple of problems along the way. I was doing them every week. And from now on, I want to do them every week. And if I don't do one every week, you guys can email me and say, hey, you said you were going to do one every week. I got into this whole thing where I was like, everything has to be perfect and have all this value. And like, sometimes that perfectionism can make you not do stuff, and it's better to just go for it. Just turn the camera on and do something. Okay. Antonio says, what's an area of the fundamentals that you personally would love to improve in? As you get better, what gets easier and what gets harder? Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to ask everyone that. So what area of fundamentals do you guys want to improve on? And what's getting easier and what's getting harder? So for me, most wonderful, fun thing for me about figure drawing is the gesture. It was the hardest thing to get my head around because I'm quite an analytical person. I like maths and stuff. It's rational, it makes sense, and there's an answer. And there is actually more sort of rational side to it's not just completely vague gesture. It's not just pure feeling. There is angles and stuff that goes into a gesture, but there's also this whole feeling element. And I thought, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to be able to do this. And then just keep doing it and letting go and finding that mindset. And then I've started to feel gestural marks coming out in my hands, and that's my favorite thing. But then because I love it so much, that's what I'll sort of default to. So that's why, one of the reasons why I'm trying to improve on ideas around perspective and stuff like that recently. Because I did learn all the basics of perspective, but I haven't practiced it enough so that I have a good intuitive sense of it when I'm drawing. And that's what I want to improve. And then in terms of other stuff, man, I want to improve in everything. I love all of it. I really do. I'll show you. Okay, we're going to move on from the cats in 30 seconds, and we'll do something else. Maria says, I'm a cat lover because the cats came out better than Maggie. Well, you know what? I have found that drawing my wife, who I love very much, one of the hardest people to draw, I think because I love her, you know? I care about it too much. So maybe you're a dog lover or a Maggie lover. Okay. So Food EXP says shading, scaling, and gesture. I have a hard time getting my shadows not to look flat, but my scaling of images from head to paper is quite difficult to improve on. Scaling, you mean, I think you asked a question on that before, like getting it to the right size, right? Yeah. You could mark it out at the beginning, just and do an envelope around the shape roughly, find that outer edges, and just be disciplined in keeping within that shape. Okay. Right. Oops. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, we drew a cat and a dog, and we've got no time. How about we end on something really boring, but a really interesting shape. This is a bottle of bleach. This is not an ad for this bleach. I don't know if it's good, but it's an interesting shape, and I made a video with this in it. And you might think, man, that sounds like a boring video, but it's really good, I think. So let's just draw this. So there's a couple of reasons that I think this is a cool shape. It's like, I'm going to draw on it on the right side. So let's say you were thinking in this like construction style, in perspective, simple 3D shapes, kind of, that was your primary concern. You could think, okay, that's a sort of cone with the top chopped off, and then there's a cylinder there and another cylinder, and you can start to see, okay, if I want to draw this, I can break it down into simple shapes, you know? And you can see a box in the bottom. And the video that I made about it is how to see these boxes, because it's like the box isn't quite there. But if you're ruthless and you just chop off details, you can turn things into a box. So you're going to be able to find, after that video, I hope, it's not going to be this mysterious and difficult to find boxes in organic shapes. Because you can see that this thing is like halfway. It started out as a box, and then they like made it all curvy and made it all cool looking, and it just got a little bit more organic with curvy shapes and stuff. And so it's like this bleach bottle. I was in the toilet and I saw it. I was like, this is a halfway point between super simple boxes. Let's draw it small here. Super simple boxes and cylinders and more organic shapes. So anyway, we aren't going to worry about all that stuff now, about thinking about it in that way. We're just going to draw it. But we're going to draw it, maybe breaking it up in, man, what am I doing? Breaking it up into some sections maybe. Okay. So usually I would say, like, if your drawing's going to go over another drawing, you can just draw over it like I did here. But I don't want my bleach bottle to go over my Maggie drawing because the bleach is definitely not as interesting as she is. So, ending on a high, drawing some toilet bleach. Guys, I've had so much fun with you today. This was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it too. And this is the kind of thing that I think you can, if you enjoyed it, just grab your sketchbook every day. There's always a little break every day, for, you know, after dinner or before lunch or whatever. There's some little 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and there's always something around you to draw. And if all you need is a pen, there's usually a biro around, and you can just do this kind of sketching and it is going to help. I really do think that. Let's go back to the chat one last time. Okay. I'm flushed with ideas, says George. Very nice. I hope you put a live each week because that's the time when I practice the most. That's great. The box is not there is like the spoon is not real from the Matrix. Yeah. Just imagine it's a spaceship and it's not drawing. Yeah, that's true, says Parting Mist. I mean, that is a cool spaceship design with a little laser beam thing coming out the top. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I had so much fun. And I hope to see you guys next week. I really have to think of a way of signing these things off. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on the channel. We've got some cool videos. By the way, when we put up a new, tutorial or something, if you can share it and spread the word, that really helps us out. Like let people know and that kind of thing, because that way it makes it, it's really encouraging, and it also really helps to kind of grow the audience and makes it easier to keep making more and more stuff. And we have a course coming out next month, which I'm working really, really hard on. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is today, my friend Jared's book came out. He didn't even ask me to promote this, but man, I don't know if I'm allowed to open it and show you what's inside. You can see on the cover, it's so beautiful. He's so good at creating characters that you love. Every page, I'm just going to show you. Whoa! Is that alright to show that? Every page is just watercolor, hand painted. It's like a graphic novel. It's aimed at like, 10-year-olds or something. But me and my wife just loved it. And my daughter, who's 2, just keeps going on about it. So check it out. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.